I'm sure that this is going to resonate with people, this
Mm.
conversation. Do you have suggestions for people who might be feeling that kind of like, I know what you mean when you do something that you're like, your soul doesn't agree with. And it's like, I call it, I think what I get is some sort of existential horror. And
Oh, yeah.
it's just like everywhere. And it's like you're going in the wrong direction of reality or something. So if people are stuck in that and are scared, how do those people try and stop and switch to going in the right direction? Hopefully that made some semblance of sense.
Right, right. And you know what, Michaela, I wish there was you can imagine that I get asked that question
Yeah.
hundreds of times a day. And I think we want a simple answer, don't we? We want just one answer that I don't think there's one answer.
Part of it is to
Mm,
to try to listen to what you say, to what you're saying, and see if it makes you feel stronger or weaker.
yeah,
Like each word is like a stepping stone through a swamp, you
right.
know, and if it's the right word, then you step on it and it feels secure and stable compared to the territory around it, and you test that out, and then you dare to see if that's the way you think, as opposed to that
Yeah.
persona that you're putting on for public adulation and protection,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the temptation of the actor. So
Yes.
in the movie Pinocchio, when Pinocchio is trying to stop lying and to become a real boy, he faces two major temptations apart from lying. One is to be a victim, and the other is to be an actor.
Mm.
Wow. Wow, that's heavy. That is heavy. I got to go back and look into the story of Pinocchio. Wow. One thing that I'm paying attention to in this video, guys, is how patient everyone are when it comes to their conversation. They're trying to get to the meat of a situation that's very critical in this country and this world. And in order for them to do that, they have to listen to one another. It's like a meeting of the minds. And honestly, one big reason why I sit and I would watch these videos is because I try to envision myself in the same room with these people and being able to add some value to what they're talking about and just blend in properly. And I want to be able to do that. Right now I'm listening to people who are just on top of their game, extremely intelligent, and I don't think I'm prepared to sit in a room with them, but I would love to be. In order for me to do that, though, I have to be educated, you know what I mean? And I have to have the same patience that they have and be able to listen the way that they listen. And guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. And if you want to be notified of all of our videos, be the first to be notified, hit the bell too, okay?
Victim. And the other is to be an actor.
Mm.
It took me a long
To be
time
an actor.
to figure out why being an actor was a temptation. But you put your finger on it with your description. It's to adopt a set of roles that will, well, appeal to narcissistic inflation, something
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
Right.
And there's a terrible totalitarian danger in that. It's terrible.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and that's my suspicions are that's what you were reacting to so viscerally, that you were participating in that, and you had your reasons. But you mentioned something that I think maybe the three of us could discuss that would be interesting. You know, this idea about all white people being racist. So,
Mm.
so
I used to think that. I'm dead serious. I used to think that. Okay, here come all the people that's gonna be unsubbing now. I can see it. Unsub, 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 unsub. What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, hey, if you grew up the way I grew up and you seen the things I've seen, and you've had people in your ear, the same people that's been in my ear, in your ear, you will probably thought the same thing. Not until you broaden your reach and your horizons do you learn otherwise. But I really would like to hear what Mr. Peterson has to say about this. Okay, doctor.
all white people being racist. So,
Mm.
so I kind of wondered about that as a psychologist, but more broadly, because maybe you could say, well, are all people racist? And here's what I mean by that. Well, we all have an in-group preference. Now, what that group might be, it might be you and the person you love, it might be you and your family, it might be you and your town, it might be you and your state or your country, it might be you and your race. Who that in-group is can vary, but we do have preferences for people, and we do have in-group preferences, and the corollary of that is that we have out-group skepticism and maybe fear and maybe disgust and all of that. And from what I've been able to understand anthropologically, that's more or less a human universal. As different peoples have been brought around the world into global community, let's say, one of the things that anthropologists have found is that it's almost always the case that any given tribe of people will use the word that refers to human beings to their tribe and some other word to everyone else. And so it's possible that that's a deep tendency that we all have to fight against. And I mean, there's part of the reason these ideas are so compelling to people and able to possess them, the wokeness ideas, let's say, to use a casual category, is that they contain an element of truth. People have an in-group preference that can easily be distorted into something that's quite akin to racism. I mean, you even see that in chimpanzees, for example. They'll go on raiding forays into neighboring territories, and if they outnumber, the males do this, if they outnumber the foreigners that they come across, they will tear them to pieces. So it's, that was a stunning discovery. Lovely that primatologists made. Jane Goodall's team discovered that in the 70s. It was a real shock.
Wow.
Right. So
They were trying to find all the nice chimps.
yeah, well,
And it was like, oh, they just rip each other to shreds. Whoa, okay.
yeah, exactly. Well, no one had any inkling previous to that human tendency.
Get dressed, we're going to the gym. What's the point? Because you lack confidence, man. You need some confidence.
Why you got so much confidence?
I have so much confidence because I tried some miracle juice.
What's miracle juice?
I'm glad you asked. Scientists at Stanford University created a quick and 100% natural formula to increase the size of the penis. And the entire scientific world, from sexologists to doctors and academics, confirm that this important discovery will end a problem that is shameful for thousands of men.
Interesting.
Look below the link of this video, and for the first time you purchase some, you get 50% off.
Wow. I got to get me some.
For war, broadly speaking, was so deep that it was even shared by our, closest animal relative. So this is very deep. So, the idea that racism and in-group preference, all of that, is something that human beings struggle with is true. And then you say, well, you twist that a bit. You say, well, that's particularly true of white people because they hold the power. It's like, well, it's an interesting proposition.
You know what? Now I really need to hear what he has to say about this, because I still go off of that. I still believe that the people with the power control everything, and the people who have the most power are white people. It just is what it is. But I don't lean on that with any type of victimhood whatsoever. I also understand a lot more now, and I'm appreciative of this conversation, of the in-group preferences. That in and of itself can definitely lean toward us being discriminatory, giving other people opportunities over simply because we're familiar with a group, or because we have more relation, we can relate more to a group. We would give them preferential treatment. And that same thing happens on your job, at places of business where you go like to buy food, or you go to sit down at a restaurant, anything like that. A lot of times we tend to give more favor to those we feel more comfortable. And that could be a problem. That could be an issue. That's part of the reason why I used to believe for a great majority of my life that only white people could be racist. I swear to God. I swear to Oh my gracious. So this right here is doing nothing but it's just maturing me. And I'm here for it. This is nothing about me trying to be a huge fan of Jordan Peterson or any of these guys. I'm thankful for them going out there doing the research, for them bringing it back to us, sitting down and being able to not necessarily translate, but make it so plain that we can understand it, and then we can go communicate amongst our groups, our in groups, and hopefully our in groups, our minds will start to broaden as well. Like everyone that I know, like people who are rednecks, so to speak, people who are in a deep, deep country who can't wait to see somebody that look different than them. People in the hood like me that can't wait for somebody to walk through their neighborhood that look different than them to do something to them. It makes absolutely no sense. So all this in-group preferential treatment stuff, it could be extremely damaging. And that's what's happening that's why I don't like politics. I have to start paying more attention to it because a lot of the laws and everything apply to me and my family. But if I can go without having to pay attention to politics or be a part of it, or I would do it, because people are choosing sides. And when they choose sides, they look beyond what's right and what's wrong. What's red and blue, that's all they decide upon. Republican, Democrat, they decide based off of that. And that right there is an issue for me. Like everybody's talking about left is this or right wing that. So what? Why can't you be both? Nobody I've met in this world, in this entire time, my 43 years of living, I've never met a monolith. I never met anybody who was just one way. So why do we choose to be just one way when it comes to politics? It makes absolutely no sense. And then when we do that, people start getting attacked. I've seen videos of people getting beat up because they had on MAGA hats. What the hell for? This dude wanted whoever, it was a dude. I seen a video just recently. It was a black dude inside of a restaurant, and he got approached by a white guy that said, take off that hat. And he was about to beat him up for it, and then he took it off and threw it on the ground. Listen, bro, you don't know why I got on this hat. I don't mess with it. I don't like Trump. I don't, because he says some ignorant stuff that's, to me, he says some very ignorant stuff that goes against people that I love and that I know. But that don't mean he didn't do some things that might have been good for the country. But I didn't pay attention enough to know that. Why? Because I looked at that one thing, and people are looking at that one hat that people are wearing, and they're attacking, and it's BS, bro. It's absolute BS. We need to grow the hell up. We do. We need to grow up. That's why I'm watching this right now. I'm not watching this so that I do want to start a conversation, but I'm also watching this because everybody that's looking at this right now, myself included, my family, people I don't know all across the world, we need to grow up and stop being sensitive, but just be more sensible and understand that what we do actually affects everybody else around us. And we need to actually care. Some of us don't care because we're in our nice little safe bubble, and we think everything's perfect as long as we don't go outside our bubble. Well, sometimes your bubble is burst. It's not always your fault. Look at what they're doing over in Ukraine right now. Like, some of them had their safe bubbles. So at some point, we need to understand that we're all in this together. Every single last one of us. I don't give a damn if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever. Stop being so one-sided. And realize that, and even people who are huge fans of Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all these other things, stop thinking that just because somebody give you a leftist point of view, that they're automatically ignorant. That is ignorant. I'm just saying.
White people, because they hold the power. It's like, well, it's an interesting proposition, but the question is, well, if it's true, exactly how is it true, and what's its limits, and how does that play out in the case of other races or groups, Asians, for example?
Right.
And what are the dangers of putting the idea that way? And what makes you so sure that that's also not true of your group? And how does power play into that? Like, these are all genuine questions that we should be asking ourselves, instead of like hammering home the idea that we have the answer to this.
Thank
It's
you.
like, well, you said, you got elevated as a black woman in this. Well, it's very difficult to see that, to not see that as an exacerbation of your in-group preference, and then an exaggeration of that implicit or explicit racism on your part. And I think that's part of what you were rebelling against.
Yes. And you know what, the questions that you were just asking before, those are the exact questions that I had, just simple questions. And it started to signal again that something wasn't right here, that I couldn't even just ask the simplest questions, or at least felt that I couldn't. I could have, but I was much more scared of the consequences of asking the questions than leading with the curiosity of getting some kind of answer, right? And in my letter, Michaela, you read this part out earlier about the disempowerment of Black people. That's how I started to feel extremely disempowered. You know, even when people would say things like, yeah, it's because white people have all the power. According to who and in what context are we talking about? Does it matter?
White?
Hold on, Africa. Hold on. Don't listen to me, Michaela and Jordan. Africa, don't tell all the secrets, sister. Who got the power then? I don't know. I guess we just look at the people who started it all, and the people who started the country are the white people. So we say, since they started, this is their company. I mean, this is their country initially, and this is their company, and they run it the way that they want to run it. So they make sure that whoever they want to win. That's what we usually tell ourselves. Like, I know it's ignorant. I get it. Listen, I get it. It's all a part of learning. Okay, let me be quiet. Now, and that's the reason why I can't sit in the panel with them yet. I'm not patient, and I'm a little bit too turned up. My energy is a little, and not all of them are super patient with one another and smiling in low tones and stuff. Me, I'm just, they'd be like, man, we're never inviting him again. Like, who invited him this time?
According to who and in what context are we talking about? Does it matter where in the world you are? Which ones? Right?
I had an experience like that.
All white people.
Not exactly like that. It was like that, but for me. And I was taking sciences.
I know, guys.
Because I'd switched out of humanities because there was a lot of, I was taking a course on Homer, and it was Homer through the feminist lens. And I was like, that's not what I paid you guys for. So I switched into sciences, and about every couple of months, somebody would come in and they'd say, okay, for all the women in the room, I know you've had a much harder time getting to where you are than the men have. And I was just like, are you telling me I'm stupid? Like, what exactly are you saying here? And how dare you suggest that it was like insulting in kind of a condescending way, which was the complete opposite of whatever they were. Well, maybe it wasn't the opposite of what they were trying to do. But yeah, it's condescending and irritating.
Yeah, well,
bugged me.
Well, think about what that does in some sense. It makes your generic femininity and your generic vulnerability far more important than your individual particularity. Yeah. And this is what I've been objecting to with regards to this group mentality from the beginning. It seems to me that its fundamental danger, the fundamental danger is the devaluation of the sacredness of the individual as the primary category. You replace that by group identity, you have no idea what kind of devil you're messing with. Or maybe you do to some degree. You experienced it a bit because you messed about with that devil and you got tempted, and 7,000 people told you were right. It's like, imagine you're a political leader. Okay, now imagine 30 million people tell you that you're right, and they chant that in a mob. And they do that everywhere you go. That's what happened in Germany. And then you play to the crowd. You're that actor. You play to the crowd, and you get hungrier and hungrier for that validation.
And that's the part. See, people are going to say, oh, why didn't you like Trump? You didn't like Trump because he did what? He played to the crowd a lot when it came to some of the BS, and I hated that. Like, I don't give it. I think we're all genuinely good people. But I think sometimes when something benefits us, we play to the crowd and we turn on that actor, and that's annoying. I don't like it. I don't like it.
That actor, you play to the crowd and you get hungrier and hungrier for that
Go ahead.
validation. And you train yourself to say anything the crowd demands, no matter how dark.
Right.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing too. And guys, listen. If you heard one sound bite that made you feel some type of way from what I was saying, please feel free to reach out to me so we can have a conversation without you like just jumping to judgment. I've been receiving a lot of love from people saying, I'm glad that you're not running away and that you're not allowing the negativity to push you away. But I've also equally been receiving more emails, more messages from people who think that I am drinking the Kool-Aid, that I am like a part of this big conglomerate that's pushing racist undertones all across the internet, and I'm doing it because it's beneficial to me, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So when we're in a position, and I'm glad he just now said this, when we're in a position to do something on another scale, or let's not allow people to get so much in our head that we think that we go outside of ourselves and we start to be negative simply because it works. And so if I go from 290,000 subscribers to 500,000 by simply spewing hate or something like that, that right there is not success for me. That right there is selling out for me, is horrible for me. It won't feel good to me. And the reason why my channel is not as big as it could possibly be, if you go back and look at my videos, is because I speak my truth. I don't care about playing to the crowd whatsoever. I do not mind losing subscribers simply because I'm being honest to myself. I am a man who is also a father and a husband. So before anybody on the internet have anything to say for me or can hold me accountable, my wife does that. My children do that. I look in the mirror and hold myself accountable. So I can't say anything that lacks integrity. I can't. And then I have a community outside of my house. So it means more that we do what's right, because that's easier. Just like telling the truth is easier than lying. You ain't got to remember all these freaking lies. I'm cussing so much. Anyway, I really enjoyed this conversation. If y'all know of any more, please let me know in the comments. And that's pretty much all I have, man. Love y'all. See y'all in the next video. Peace.